The following is a production of Fenix Media. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the company or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners. Welcome back, everybody, to You Bet Your Arse, the weekly podcast where we cover the week's biggest sports bets. Of course, we are broadcasting live from the National Automobile Museum here in downtown Reno. If you want tickets or information, head over to automuseum.org. Now, I'm Kristian Fenix. With me is the Jeff Van Gundy to my Mike Breen, the G-Man. How you doing, G-Man?
Jeff Van Gundy. You know, when he was a coach, I don't know.
Way back when.
Yeah, he kind of wore, on you a little bit. If you didn't like the Knicks, and stuff. But getting to know him, on TV at least, he's having fun.
Yeah.
He says some pretty funny things.
Most of these
seems
guys
like
do.
he's more relaxed as a broadcaster than he was as a coach.
Anybody who's not coaching is more relaxed. Have you ever seen a coach who just kicks their feet up? No,
they got to be intense.
They're all pretty wound up, pretty tight. So
I did it for many, many years at three different levels. And it is definitely, college, it is all business. High school, you're still, pretty serious.
Right.
You're developing young.
Yeah,
young
you're
lives.
more of a teacher as opposed to a coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the youth, these guys that was the most fun, is the kids, being able to teach them just the basics. And the worst part about youth sports are the parents.
Oh, they're bad.
Because as a coach and an official, those they're so bad. Little Johnny's going to play in the Super Bowl,
right?
Like all those parents
At 9
cannot
years
be
old.
very good at math, because only 1%, 2% of all of the kids and playing high school sports go on to get D1 scholarships. That's
Exactly.
the numbers, and then out of all the D1 athletes, only 1% go pro.
Yep. Yeah.
Man, talk about 1 in a million.
I was just going to say the odds are less than winning the lottery, but you know what? It takes dedication, it takes hard work, but at the same time, if little Johnny just doesn't have it, chances are he's not going to be the next LeBron James.
And we're going on a little tangent here, but since this is a sports show, and there may be some, parents that are watching, I used to always say anytime there was any kind of like overzealous, parent, let's put it like that, every once in a while, classic time was a football tournament, and we were in Vegas, and the parents were just, oh my gosh, like straight out of a Will Ferrell movie, type of thing, just going crazy. And, I actually had them, huddle up. There was some injury on the field or something. And what I'd always say as a, coach and even every once in a while as a referee is just like, hey, remember you guys, like we are at this level, we are teaching these kids, all kinds of different things, not just about football, not just to strive to win, but also how to, if things aren't going your way, to graciously, be able to deal with it and overcome. So what you're modeling right now, whether it's a bad call or, something didn't happen, you know what I mean? And it's not going your way, you're teaching them to criticize, condemn, and complain.
Right.
Instead of overcome, instead of being resilient, instead of doing all the things that this game really is supposed to teach people, you know what I mean, to be able to go and use it in life. And it was awesome, man.
Right.
At least in Vegas, really gave them pause. And one of the parents even said, hey, afterwards he came up to me as we're working the sidelines, just like, hey, just let you know that was pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you could see the parents that you were really sort of aiming that at kind of sink their heads down, like, oops.
Yeah, they were engaged. It was a pretty cool, spot. I was questioning whether, in the moment, because who knows, you just may have some guy in the back saying, F you, ref.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen parents get kicked out, off the field, out of the court, and it's at that age, it's not worth it. You know?
Yeah, they actually, in some municipalities, they had to, they've passed laws, where it's like a Class D felony, if you assault a referee during a sporting event, high school sporting event or something like that. Yeah, and then I've seen everything in between. I've seen some videos of like something's not going again a team's way, and you see videos of a player, from the opposite side just go out and straight up go and tackle the referee, not even pretending, you know what I mean, till, I was trying to tackle the quarterback. It wasn't that type of thing. Like, really bizarre stuff.
Yeah. My favorites are always the baseball coaches who know that they can't do anything to the ref, so they just kick dirt at them.
Yeah. Hey, competition, competitive natures, sometimes gets the best of people for sure.
Exactly.
And we're not even talking about Will Smith.
Not this week. All right, let's get into things, as we like to do, take a look back on the previous week's stats. Last week you went 4-4 and even 50%, but overall on the 2022 betting season, as we'll call it, you're at 55.68%, which is a great winning percentage. And of course, if you've been following along with the $2 tally, where you're placing $2 on each of the bets that we talk about, you know what? You would be up $10.20.
I forgot to update it. So now it's correct. 49.39. So we're at 55.68.
Let's see. 55.68. Yep. Still $10.20. So making out pretty well. You know? Better than most of the talking heads out there. That,
and basketball is tough, man. It is tough.
Basketball is tough.
Yeah. That guy looked like our trumpet player.
Oh.
It's like, what is Casey doing here? He's supposed to be in class.
The other thing we like to do is run down our disclaimers. The first being that never bet more than you're willing to lose. It's easy to get carried away, to basically think that you've got it in the bag, pull out loans, or basically spend money that you don't have on what you think is a surefire bet.
Mm-hmm.
It's a coin toss. You could win, you could lose, and then obviously that gets you in much more trouble. Gambling addiction is a real thing. So, if you find yourself sort of towing that line or even crossing it, seek help. There's a lot of people out there, especially where we're at in the Northern Nevada area. It's a big part of discussion, but it should be part of your entertainment budget.
Hey, gambling addiction is real. And there's a lot of different ways to gamble. I was reading the other day about some guy that was like married more than 4 times. Now that's gambling. Like that's that guy.
And it'll cost you a whole lot more money too.
He needs to leave the table.
Yeah. Gambling on love.
But yeah, it's like you're saying, budget like a form of entertainment. And if you're struggling, financially paying your bills, it's probably not a good thing.
No.
And
don't rely on it to be the source to pay your bills either.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you're struggling to pay your bills, even gambling on love, that's a pretty risky proposition.
Absolutely.
Start with your own house.
There you go.
So but there's a lot of resources that are out there. If people, do, again, we've talked about it many times before. If you're watching sports, it's hard to get away from sports nowadays without them talking about it, especially before something tips off. But if they're giving any kind of wagering advice, for sure, they're definitely doing the same thing, throwing out some disclaimers. This is for entertainment purposes only.
Just like this show.
I'm just some fool in a suit, talking about this sport up here, you know what I mean? So don't be doing the same thing. Bet responsibly.
Exactly. The other disclaimer we like to give is all about in-play betting. So, the information we give is up to date as of midday on Thursdays, but sometimes the games we talk about aren't until the day after, a couple days down the line, things change. So in-play, especially within the mobile apps, is a great way to adjust bets on the fly, whether it's by the quarter, by the period, by the half, whatever it may be. Just know that the information we give you is not the be all end all. It is just the most information we have at the time of this recording.
Yeah, I love in play. Again, if you're taking like this one that we're going to be talking about, where you're getting 13 and a half points, and you get out, get in your chair, get your nice cold beverage going, you turn the game on, and it's say going into the second quarter, and whatever the team that was favored, is up by 4. so you might get, 15, 16, points at that point. You're like, oh, that's better than 13 and a half.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and normally, whatever side that you're on at some point of the game, if you're there kind of like watching the stock market go up and down,
right.
and the day trading, type of situation, you'll notice, not always, of course, but at some point in the game, no matter what side that you wanted before the tip off, you'll probably get a better number.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it just starts off one way and just keeps going. You know what I mean? Sometimes that does happen, but you don't have to bet either. That's part of the fun. I can't imagine how much money that I've won by not making the bet.
How much money you've retained?
Retained, yes.
There you go.
Which is
not lost.
Yeah. I always like to think about winning.
There you go. Hey, anything less than losing is winning.
Absolutely.
Anything more than losing.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's just like when we went to Vegas. I mean, that's a good segue. When we went to Vegas, there was a couple of watershed moments where I'm telling you, I almost popped it pretty good, where I'd, come back with a double. Double's always a good measure.
Okay.
If you're able to say, have twice as much money as you went to Vegas with, and you paid for all of your food, drink, entertainment, and stuff like that over the course that you're there. That's like a super, super good, successful trip.
Right.
And it happens a lot with March Madness. It didn't quite happen this time. We paid for all our food and beverage.
Break even.
Yeah, but it was only like minimal. I mean, a couple $100 less than I went to Vegas with, and I survived for 5 days.
Right.
Betting on all those games,
right.
Eating good, drinking good.
Entertainment, food, board, it's well worth it. Because if you go there and don't bet, you can leave with a whole lot less money than you came with.
Oh, man, they are expensive.
Yeah.
We were taken aback, how much more expensive Vegas was than the last time we were there. It was noticeable.
Yeah.
$32 for 2 Bailey's coffees.
No thanks.
I told you, I'm still complaining about that.
You need to write a strongly worded letter to somebody. Well, actually, it is a great segue talking about March Madness, because between last episode and this episode, we had the Final Four and, of course, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship. And, as far as the Final Four played out, kind of went right along the lines of what you expected. Kansas handily beat Villanova. And then North Carolina pulled it out somehow against Duke. And obviously, with that, they covered the spread in the bets, so that the championship was North Carolina versus Kansas. By halftime, I thought North Carolina was going to run away with it. Kansas came back at the end for a nail biter and ended up taking the whole dang thing. Yeah,
it was as I was watching the games, I was just like, wow, it's going pretty much the way that we just talked about on the show. North Carolina, Duke, and there was still a possibility for Duke, of course, to pull it out, which is what I was really, looking for. But North Carolina, as they have done, they are just a covering machine, in their last 12 games. Ever since they lost to Pitt, they've just been on a tear, their last 12 games or so, including, like, when you think about it, of course, their biggest rival being Coach K, and think about what they've done, to send him out. Just like, okay, you've had your day in the sun, now get your ass out of here.
You're not going out on top
just
on our watch.
Yeah. So the first one was his final home game, for Duke, beat him by 25.
Yep.
And then here he is right on the precipice of going to the national title game, one game away from a national title as he's leaving coaching, and they did it again.
Yep.
So. And Coach K, of course, classy as he is, love him or hate him. I don't know too many people that don't give him a nod. Even the people that don't like Duke, they certainly respect what he's done. For the last 40 years or so. And of course, understandably so, the media was asking him, about it being his last game and stuff like that. And so he basically says, we'll talk about that later. But for right now, I'm worried about my kids. And they just suffered a tremendous loss. They're all in the locker room crying and things like that. And so he took the human, route instead of talking about it. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And then the title game, oh my gosh, what a great game that was. North Carolina was but 15 or 16 points at halftime or something like that. And I think that, of course, right away, Kansas came back and just like chipped into the lead, first, got it down to 11. And then once they cracked underneath double digits, oh boy, game on.
Yeah.
Once they were within 8 points, I think it was and then they finally took a timeout. North Carolina took a timeout. Hubert Davis, what a great job he did, getting them to that point. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where somebody had to lose. And, Bill Self, coach from Kansas, he's been there before. This was Kansas's 7th national title, in their history.
Wow, I didn't realize it was so many.
I think they've been to 14 title games overall,
Yeah.
So it was just a fantastic tournament, fantastic all along the way. It was entertaining. You had such good games, and the madness is real.
Yeah. And that's the thing from a spectator standpoint, you don't want to see giant blowouts. You want to see close games, come from behind wins, and that's what we got throughout the entire tournament.
Yep, for sure. So can't wait until next year.
Exactly.
So in the meantime, on to the NBA, which stands for no betting allowed.
Right. Yeah. So this week's bets are going to be a little bit of a smorgasbord of different sports because we don't have the NCAA. We've got a handful of NBA. We've got one MLB. And then what is this Masters? What master of what?
It is going on right now. Yep. Augusta National.
It's golf, as I mentioned last week. Golf for me is nap time, but I know you follow it pretty well. So you put in a couple of matchups here that folks can bet on. I don't know any of the names. I do know Jordan Spieth, but go ahead and explain the bets, who you've got favored, and how that's going to potentially play out.
Yeah, this is of course the Masters, as I talked about before. It's the one golf tournament where I will, some people watch golf all the time. I just can't quite do it. It's like one of those sports, like I got to be playing it, then I'm in because you've got beer, golf cart, you're outside, getting a little bit of exercise.
Nothing says fun like sun.
Actually,
motorized cars and alcohol.
Yeah, it qualifies as exercise. You have to walk to your ball, and so I'm looking on here, and it used to. Oh, so that's what it's doing. So instead of it saying in play, it's still adjusting. Check this out. So Cameron Smith, I had him here, which is it was at plus 1,200. He must be doing well because he's only plus 3, which is 3 times your money. And
interesting.
Let's see any other ones. Dustin Johnson has come from plus 18 to plus 12. So he's moving in the right direction. Brooks, I don't think he's teed off yet. And Jordan is at plus 18. So all the guys that I have there must be doing pretty good because their odds of winning are coming down. So much like a horse, when you bet on a horse may start 4-1, but if everybody starts betting on him, by the time that the race starts, he may be even money.
Okay.
And you're like, dang, man, I bet on him when it was 4-1. And by the time they took off on the race, by the time the gate dropped, oh man, which kind of sucks to me. That's why I never really liked horse betting. But if you catch these guys early, which in this case you didn't, because we're doing the show right now after they've teed off already. But you can see that as the tournament progresses, much like in play does, they're moving the lines.
Gotcha.
So you're still able to bet much like in play, even though it doesn't say in play, on it.
Now, in a case like this, and the way we've got the spreadsheet set up is basically one team versus another, but it's not necessarily Dustin Johnson versus Cameron Smith or Brooks Koepka versus Jordan Spieth.
This is who's going to win the Masters
overall.
Yeah.
So
I picked my top 4.
Now, if you were betting this, if you were going to the sports book to bet it, would you put money down on all 4 of them? Just one of them?
Because that's kind of like the way that I do. I would probably stagger it. If I had $100, I'd probably, you could figure out anyway, 4 different ones are $25 each. That's pretty uniform, where if one of them hits, then you're still net winning. You could pare it down to just 2 of them. Of course, it doesn't increase your odds of getting one right because now you have 2 instead of 4. Or you can say, hey, I feel the strongest, that Jordan Spieth is going to pull through because there's something to the Masters sometimes you got to have played the golf course. You need to know a lot about the golf course. So this is one of those ones where experience on the golf course as many times as possible is going to lend to more success historically.
Okay.
And so yeah, I just threw out late. You can check in on these 4, see how they're doing. And if you want to jump on, like again, Cameron Smith, now it's plus 250. So he's out there killing it, doing something really good.
Hence the in play.
Yeah. So that's kind of the way that we laid it out. So even if you are listening to the show after the Masters has already started, you can reference these names, see where they're doing, and see if you want to jump on.
Now, at what point, if you're putting $25 down on each of them, if one of them hits, obviously you're covering your bets. But at what point does that even itself out where it doesn't make sense to
So in that case, if Cameron started at plus 1,200, all of these numbers right here, if you would have bet $25, no matter what would have happened if one of them hit, because the lowest one is 12, so you're going 12 times 25, which is more than you bet. So yeah, I think you're making 3 times your money, even if the lowest one hits.
Okay.
Even taking out all of the money that you bet. So I would say on that particular thing, so you're looking at plus 300, because then you're 25 times 3 gets your 25. So at that point you're breaking even.
Okay.
And why would you even do that? So I would say if anything's above plus 300, then probably look at that.
All right. Fair enough. Well, let's move from golf over to baseball, which, the season has been a little strange so far with, the Players Association trying to figure things out when the season will actually start. But it looks like we actually have opening day right around the corner. In fact, today is
a game going on right now. Got the Brewers up on the Cubs, 1-0, middle of the 4th.
Nice. Well, we're not talking Brewers Cubs. We're talking Mets Nationals. You've got the Nationals as a plus 105. That game kicks off at 4:05 this afternoon. It's one of those things that I don't follow a whole lot of baseball betting. Why did you pick this one in particular as the opening day baseball bet?
Well, first, because it's opening day. Because as I was putting this together this morning, it's just like, okay, let's give a homage to the game itself. As we've talked about before, I'm kind of a little bit pissed at baseball, Major League Baseball, and I know we talked about the Hall of Fame voters and all the stuff that happened with keeping out McGuire and Sosa and Bonds.
Yeah, all the behind the scenes stuff is. Yeah.
So that being said, purely again about the game, it's opening day. I'm not quite ready to let the bygones be bygones, type of thing. But as I look through the games that are happening today, this one kind of stood out because I'm comparing the opening line versus where it is today, and it's all the smart money's going on the Nationals. So the Mets opened up at minus 135 this morning. They're minus 115, so that's like 20 points drop.
It's a big movement.
Who's going to win the game? So that's pretty much it. Nationals, in addition to that, of the line movement, are at home. It's opening day. Everybody wants to win opening day, type of thing. So that's pretty much it. Very small angle. The game is even, so it's kind of a toss up, but you're getting a little bit more back with the Nationals also. So all the little positive check signs are on the right side.
And if you're listening or watching and you are a baseball fan, it's kind of our first dipping the toe in the water for the baseball season. So you may or may not see more bets as, the upcoming weeks come along.
Yeah, we got to focus on the NBA, at least through June.
We're getting closer to postseason. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Speaking of NBA, let's go ahead and move on to a slate of games that all are today. The first being the Orlando Magic against the Charlotte Hornets. You've got the Magic plus 13.5. That game kicks off at 4 p.m. Sorry, tips off, if I must be grammatically correct. This one's interesting. The Magic just have to get within 13.5 points to cover the bet, but the Magic as a whole are a pitiful, terrible team, especially against a team like the Hornets. What makes you think that they can get within that 13.5 point window?
A couple things. The whole lineup today is based on kind of like what's going on with their playoff position and where they are. Charlotte's in a position where they're not going to really move, too much, if at all.
Mhm.
And the last time Orlando played Charlotte, they actually beat them.
Interesting.
So competition wise, they should be able to hang with them. And at this point, going into the playoffs, again, Orlando's got their bags packed, wanting to get into the off season.
Mhm.
Charlotte's wanting to stay healthy. So I just look at this number and look at the lines makers again, as they often do. They just try to overinflate it a little bit, knowing that most people are going to bet on Charlotte. And so that's the rationale,
Right.
with the all included in the summary on that one.
And it makes sense that the Hornets would, kind of rest people, their key players a little bit more, so that way going into the postseason, they're ready for that.
Yeah, get some bench players a little bit more time, all these different things. So
all right, fair enough. Next matchup, Boston Celtics against the Milwaukee Bucks. You've got the Bucks -6.5. That game tipping off at 4:30 this afternoon. Both teams, record-wise, are pretty even. Bucks are favored overall to win this. Obviously, they're at home, but within 6.5. How is that doable for them?
Yeah, this is one where, again, both of them they're right there. Half a game, the Bucks are away from it. So it's playoff time because of the seeding. This is really a seeding game right here. And, looking at Milwaukee, the way both of these guys have been playing really good.
Yeah.
But Milwaukee has been covering more. Like I think the last 12 games, they've only not covered, I think, 3 times. And one of them was, of course,
the game you chose.
Yeah.
Was that the Clippers
I picked
game?
Against them. Yeah. And then they also, I think they got clobbered against the Pistons. Or no. Which one was
Sixers?
it? No. Milwaukee. Oh, it was against the Clippers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 153 to something.
Yeah,
I think if I'm correct.
153 to 119.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They just got clobbered. So, but that being said, they're at home. Outside of that game, they've been playing pretty good, including, again, a victory over the Suns.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really close nail biter that they pulled through. And so with Boston, one of their players is hurt. I just get here. I thought. I'm sorry, that's the 76ers that is for.
Yeah, so out for the game today with the Celtics are Morgan, Tatum, Horford, Smart, and Stauskas.
Okay. So, yeah, it looks like, again, looks like they're either injured or resting some of their players. Tatum, of course, is still going to play. You never know what's going to happen with him, but I think that in this spot, Milwaukee at home, 6.5, it's kind of a tall thing, but let's see what happens.
All right. Moving on to the next matchup. Speaking of teams getting clobbered, you've got Portland +17 against the New Orleans Pelicans. By the hook on that game tipping off at 5 p.m. I have not much to say. You've got a very good team against a very poor team. And obviously, if Portland can stay 17 points within where the Pelicans are at, they cover the spread. It's doable, but at the same time, they give you a lot of room to play with.
Yeah, and I think this is, Portland, of course, has been dealing with the Damian Lillard injury all year long. But if you watch them play, they play very hard, and they'll come out, with gangbusters, and then basically, kind of lose. The game time adjustments and things like that, have caused them a lot of things. But as looking at them, they're, of course, they win 1 game and lose 2. Looks like, is the general gist of their record. 3-5, somewhere 2.7, 5.2, right around 3.34, 2 winning percentage, which isn't, again, the best. But I think this is, again, an example where the Pelicans are in. Mm-hmm. They're clinched. They're in the play-in. Nothing's really going to change between the two of them. They're either going to play the Clippers or the Timberwolves. And so, I think that, again, they're going to be managing, their time, making sure that, they win the game, lose the game, because we're 79, so 3 games left.
Yeah.
That's it. Sundays are the last game. So they're probably going to be probably resting some players, making sure that people stay healthy, and hopefully Portland's going to come out with some effort. And again, 17 points. That's a lot of points to be given up in any NBA. If I was on Portland, I'd be just like insulted, like often happens.
Right.
And if there's any kind of pride at all, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Follow the money. It's there for the taking, pretty much at a 17-point spread.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is the Memphis Grizzlies headed to Denver against the Nuggets, -4.5. That game at 6 p.m. this evening. This is one where the records don't really reflect the matchup because the Grizzlies are almost 10 games ahead of Denver, but Denver's actually favored to win this game. I don't know where they stand in the playoff picture, but at the same time, it's one of those things where it's definitely a lot closer than, say, the last matchup we were just talking about.
Yeah. So basically, again, the angle on this one is like, who wants it more, right? Okay, so Memphis is second in the playoff, and they are locked in. They're not going to catch Phoenix in the number 1 slot, and they're not going to lose because they're five games up on Golden State, and there's only 3 left. So they are in the second spot. And guess what Denver's trying to do? They are 2 games ahead of Minnesota. That's why Minnesota is, we'll talk about that in a second. But they're in the 6th spot, which means they don't have to deal with the play-in.
Mm-hmm.
So they're super, super motivated.
Yeah.
And again, Memphis, they're in that totally stay healthy.
They're in maintenance mode.
Yep.
All
so
right.
There's nothing going to change there. They want to stay healthy, keep their bodies in shape, get some exercise and stuff like that. But Denver's going to want it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be banging a little bit more. And so 4.5 at home,
it'll be interesting to watch.
They think this is the one.
Yep. All right, next up is the Los Angeles Lakers +13 against the Golden State Warriors. By the hook on that one, tip-off at 7 p.m. this evening. Again, I assume this is another one where, Golden State, they're in trying to just kind of figure out what position they're at, but they have nothing to lose against the Lakers, who are well out of the playoff picture.
I know. I keep wearing my Lakers hat.
Yeah. At this point in the season, it's not going to turn around for you.
Yeah, to show people that, it is what it is. But the team, it's about the team, right? The team. I'm not really happy with the way that things played out.
Mm-hmm.
And if LeBron wants to go back to Cleveland, let him go.
Right. Coach LeBron or player LeBron?
Let's let him go. I think that management has they're done with him as far as the GM role, and they're going to start doing what they need to be doing. Hopefully, I think, does he only have a year left on his contract?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so hopefully, if he doesn't go, then it'll be his last year. Because as a Lakers fan, I'm kind of over the LeBron experiment. 2 of the years, and they didn't even make the playoff. The 1 year that they did win the chip, it was during the COVID thing, and who knows what kind of an effect that it may have had. It's definitely got a little, not like an Astros asterisk, but it still has a little bit of an asterisk, with the way that all would happen in 2020.
And I think Jeannie Buss gave that whole experiment a little too much rope, and now they're hanging themselves with it. So she's got to rein it back in and really sort of reconfigure everything.
So why am I taking the Lakers then? It's at 13 points, huh? I'm hoping that these guys are still professionals, that they're tired of all the shit talking, that the internet's doing and all that stuff, and that they hopefully just come to play. And
it's the 2 marquee teams in this modern era.
Yeah. So when you're playing against the best, hopefully that their competitive nature will come out, and they're getting 13 points. That's my whole thinking on that.
That's the hope, and it's 13 points to play with. What more can you ask?
Yeah. Don't go out like that, man.
All right. And then you've got one marked here as a parlay bet. The Spurs against Minnesota at -7.5. Again, that game tipping off at 5:10 p.m. Go ahead and explain the parlay bet on that one.
Well, I talked about Minnesota a little bit earlier. We're talking about Denver, and these guys are neck and neck. They're 2 games, I think, under Denver. So if they could go on a little 3-game run, Denver drops a couple, on the way out, all of a sudden they're in. They don't have to deal with the play-in. So there's the motivation factor. And they're playing the Spurs. They are not very good.
No.
So it's set up for them. So the under, I like the under because that's a pretty good high number.
Mm-hmm.
The Spurs
but
on
not
the road,
17 points high or 13 points high.
Yeah, from the 3-point, line, I think they're around 34% or something like that, which is, it's respectable, but it's nothing that's like in the top of the league. And hopefully Minnesota, because of that urgency and wanting to win this game and hopefully be able to move up, that's going to actually create a little bit more defensive effort on their side. And so combined with the fact that it's a pretty high number for a total, hopefully these guys are going to have their defensive prowess about them tonight, and we'll see what happens. This is only the second little parlay that I've tried to do. We missed the first one. We went 50-50, on the last one, which on a parlay means a loser, but so let's see what happens.
Yeah. It's always worth trying at least, especially if you're doing the $2 tallies with us. So
yeah, $20 will get you back 72, $2 get you back 720, not 720.
No, $7.20. Yeah. That'll buy you.
Yeah. So let's see what happens. Again, keep it fun. Keep it fun. Keep it light.
All right. Before we get to our sports betting for dummies, where we're taking a look at NHL betting, want to remind everybody that we do have sponsorship opportunities available. So if you are a business or an individual who wants to sponsor this show that reaches many, many, many people, both in video and audio format, reach out to us. Drop me a line at my email. That's Kristian, Kristian, at phoenixmedia.us. And your name, your logo, and your ad can all be associated with this show. All right. Sports betting for dummies. NHL last week. Luckily, I won again.
Unbelievable.
You're still in a little bit of a slump, though. We were talking beforehand that you've won one. I don't remember which one it is.
I'm checking right now. So far, I started 0-3. There it was. Okay, the Golden Knights on March 19th.
That was your one.
That's my first one.
Maybe a second.
Not so far. Nope. That's it. That's the only victory that I have.
Interesting. Well,
I know.
Maybe this one will turn it around. So you've got Nashville minus 175 money line against Ottawa.
Yeah.
That game again tonight, 4 p.m. Why did you pick that game and Nashville specifically?
Well, I'm admittedly changing it up a little bit.
Oh, no.
Well, because remember, like all this time I was taught, God, it's like, who's this teacher? I was taught that like with hockey, you really put a lot of research into who the goalkeeper is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it is, man. My goalkeepers have been on an off night, all season. So I'm not going to do that today. I'm actually picking these guys based on their overall record. For the Predators, they're 40, 25, and 4, a total of 84 points. And the Senators are 26, 37, and 6 for 58 points. So I thought that this was actually, it seems like a pretty good line value at minus 175, because that's like, better than minus 200. A little bit more than like laying odds on a 5 or 9, at the craps table, type of situation where you're getting, you're getting better than half your money. So from a percentage standpoint, let's see what happens.
All right.
I think I'm just hungry for a victory.
Right. At this point, you just want the gimme, right? All right. And then the matchup that I picked is the Buffalo Sabres puck line against Carolina Hurricanes at minus 1.5. That game at 4:30 p.m. this evening. Now, obviously, that means that the Hurricanes not only have to win, they have to win by 1.5.
Yeah, well, they are a significant favorite just to win the game. They're minus 380.
Yeah, and they have, almost double the number of wins. But here's the stat that really stuck out to me. In their last 3 wins, they've won all of those games by 4 points or more.
4 pucks or more.
4 pucks or more, which is nearly impossible to do.
Or 4 goals hockey, or more.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
4 of the little round discs in the net.
Yeah, they're hard and cold.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. If you've ever been hit by one,
I don't want to be hit by one. I see guys that play that sport without teeth. And
yeah. So, it's kind of going against the grain there, but if I win based on our conversation, that may earn me 2 points in our little tally here.
You're starting to separate a little bit, and as we talked about, we'll maybe visit our scoring system. But you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, maybe hockey betting's my niche.
Yeah, at least against me.
Yeah. But, that's basically how we got to it in a sport that we know very little about. It all comes down to stats versus, as we explain, in football, we know the game pretty much in and out, who the players are, the coaches are, the situations. And so a lot of it is gut in addition to the stats. Here it's almost purely stats.
Yeah, or purely guts.
Right. Or just praying and wishing for that one win, right?
It's a tough one so far. Hey, if I keep it like this, we could probably just start having some fun with just let's go the opposite of what G-Man says. See what kind of record in hockey we can accumulate then.
It's opposite day. Well, it's all part of the fun. It's why we do this. It's to show you guys that, anybody can get into a new sport, start sports betting, and you're not always going to win, not always going to lose, but the more educated you are, the better the chances are that you stand.
Yeah. If you lose, go out and mow the lawn.
Yeah.
You work out your aggression on some grass.
Exactly. Well, speaking of which, that is the end of this week's show. I think we had a pretty good one. Not a whole lot of NFL news. So, we're getting closer to the draft time, which we'll have a lot to talk about then. But, we'll be here with you guys next week talking more and more into the NBA playoffs. And, it's getting to be an exciting time where we've got multiple sports all going at once.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. I'll be traveling much more from May, on. So we may have to be doing some podcast,
do some remotes, do some remote
stuff
videos.
Like that. But we've got some other projects we'll be probably plugging towards soon, but we're laying all the groundwork for some pretty exciting stuff.
Lots coming around the bend. So stay tuned with us. And you know what? We will be all with you guys. We will be with all you guys next week.
See you.